Hi everyone, Harry here to talk about the big Fox Dominion settlement. And let me start by saying I have a different take from a lot of my colleagues whom I respect. And so, you may want to go elsewhere to fill in what's going to be a somewhat depressing account from me. But here's the thing, you know, we have the adversary system of trials in there, and it's run on the private interests of the litigants. That's the way it has to be. The more public stuff is for legislation, but sometimes the private adversary system really serves to further a social goal, really establishes facts. That's what it's like, for example, a jury verdict is supposed to be. Somebody says, I didn't commit a crime. You go to trial. I'm thinking now of the recent notorious case in South Carolina. That's really been determined now for society. And here we were at a spot where so many things had gone right in discovery and in pretrial motions, and in the table was so set for a conclusive and emphatic decision, not just for Dominion, but for all of us, that basically made it an understood fact, not for every, not for Rupert Murdoch, maybe not for the most crazy stalwart Fox viewer, but for the broad center of the country, that, hey, guess what? Fox misled the American public. They contributed to January 6th. It was a serious transgression. Instead, they write a check, and that's all they do. So they don't have to apologize. Often defamation cases do involve apologies, which are carefully crafted, but Dominion didn't insist on that. Or it goes to trial, and I think in this case, they'd have gotten their head handed to them. Instead, they write a check. A lot of people are saying, an enormous price tag. I'm not saying 775 million is chump change, but when you think about it and where things were, nobody's surprised at the amount, and you can't say that it was, some stunning amount. And again, I'm focused now on the public reaction. 500 million, 700 million, 250 million. It feels like Fox wrote a big check, sure. But as a result, they get to prattle on about, and they did it immediately. First, their big statement: we acknowledge that the court found that the statements were false. That's a fact. The court did find that. There's nothing they could say. They acknowledge the court found that. They acknowledge that it's Tuesday. And then they append it immediately, wrapping themselves in the First Amendment flag, saying, we continue to be warriors for the First Amendment, which is 100% wrong. What they did in this case, not simply toxic for the American public, but for the First Amendment. The First Amendment places no value on false news anyway, on wrong facts, but it permits them to have breathing room and not the subject of defamation, in order to be sure that reporters can, go after things aggressively and err on the side of getting information out to the public, and not have to be cowed thinking, oh, if I'm negligent here, am I gonna get clobbered? But purposely done, knowing lies, no First Amendment value. Really, it retards the First Amendment, which is about the marketplace of ideas and, let the truth out. And here, the biggest, most watched cable station in the country, it's a faux news station. That's what should have been established, but they just propounded lies that really contributed to a terrible situation that threatened, not to put too grave and panicked a spin on it, but it did threaten the vitality of the republic, of the democracy, of the safe and nonviolent transfer of power. And they don't really get their day of reckoning. You know, people are aware, oh, they wrote a big check, but exactly what they didn't do, and they were so close to having to do, is to get their head handed to them in a court of law with all kinds of, we got a lot of stuff in discovery, but we had that already. People who point to that, I think, are missing the point. Same thing with they're saying, oh, there are more cases to come. Yes, but that was already the case. And this one had gone so far down the line, including, most importantly, to summary judgment, where it was already off the table. We know it's false, and we're just going to argue about actual malice. I don't see the Smartmatic case, for example, going that far. I see it being a matter of another check, probably. So, again, no fault to Dominion. I've said this to you and others again and again. They had a super strong case on liability, but a fairly weak one on damages. You know, $1.6 billion was at least double their own valuation as a company. But, you know, there was the possibility of punitive damages. I think if they went to trial, they'd have wound up with more. Almost certainly. It's true, though, they would have had to wait as things went through the courts of appeals for the check finally to be written. And people point out maybe things would have been narrowed on appeal. You know, maybe, but not too likely. And mainly we were really poised for a kind of definitive social judgment. That happens in criminal trials. It happens, say, Brown versus Board of Education. Basically, that stands for a social consensus, not 100%, but a social consensus that builds stronger and stronger, that separate but equal is not equal. And same here. We could have had a really strong, understood, shared consensus. Again, not in the far right-wing crazies, but let's say a middle 60% of the country. History books, in addition, that say, here's what, you know, the judicial system found, or here's the apology that Fox had to issue. And instead, what could have been a really emphatic, definitive resolution becomes unemphatic, undefinitive. Fox writes a pretty big check, but, you know, they were looking at that anyway. And more importantly, I think for the public, they don't have to fall on their sword and say, you know, we screwed up and it was really serious and really important, because they did screw up and it was really serious and was really important. And that kind of evaporates, except among real sort of insiders. So no fault of Dominion. You know, you can't expect them to sacrifice their private interest for the public interest, and they do get a big payday, but we are much the poorer the public is from where we could have been. I mean, look, just imagine January 6th, what has been that committee is valuable because it went pretty far, but there are naysayers, and you know, Trump himself. By the way, what Fox did is the Trump playbook, right? It's what he did with the university case. Just write a check so he doesn't have to have an established fact, a verdict that becomes something that people accept. Here's what happened here. Here is what happened here with Fox. They get to muddle it, prattle on about their great First Amendment values, and sorry to say, but I kind of think it's a shame. All right, that's the end of this one. There'll be more to come with Fox and defamation. They're not 100% out of the woods yet, but I think for writing a big check and nothing more, they dodge a cannonball. All righty, there you have it. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.